Hey guys, welcome to my autumn TBR. Like I say with all my autumn videos, this is my favorite season. I'm so here for it. I love to read seasonally, but what that really means is like all the books I love to read are autumnal. And so when it comes to autumn, my TBR is through the roof because I love to read in the season, but my favorite books are like cozy and mystery and fantasy and just things that work really well for this season. So my TBR is large. I will probably not get to all of the books in an ideal world. Sure I could. But the truth is I will add in other books as I go. I'll learn about more, things will come up in life, etc. But here are the books that, if I could, I would read this season. And we're not going in any particular order because I just pulled them off my shelves randomly. Actually, yeah, okay. We will just start with my top of my pile here. This is The Tightrope Walker by Dorothy Gilman. Now, Dorothy Gilman is the author of the Mrs. Pollifax series, which I don't stop talking about, but I actually don't own the next Mrs. Pollifax book. I've requested it from the library, so it's kind of also on this list, but I didn't have it here with me, and I was trying to just pick books that I had physically. So I thought I would grab this one because it has the highest rating on Goodreads out of the 3 non-Mrs. Pollifax books that I have not read, that I own. So I don't know anything about it. When a young antique store owner unearths the past, she finds much more than she bargained for, including murder. I've read, I think, just one non-Mrs. Pollifax Dorothy Gilman, and it was really interesting. It's like still written very much in that same style. Here's a quote at the beginning. "They're going to kill me soon." When the quiet and shy Amelia Jones reads these words, her life changes irrevocably. She's just become the new owner of the Ebb Tide shop, a musty antique store filled with merry-go-round horses and hurdy-gurdies. And it is while fixing one of these barrel organs that the scrawled and threatening note falls out. Yeah, so Dorothy Gilman, lots of fun. Mentioned Mrs. Pollifax in my cozy mysteries recommendations. Definitely recommend giving that series a try, but I think her non-Mrs. Pollifax books are supposed to be pretty good too. So let's try the first sentence of this. We'll see if I remember to read the first sentence of all of them as we go. Chapter 1. Maybe everyone lives with terror every minute of every day and buries it, never stopping long enough to look. And the next sentence is, or maybe it's just me. That is amazing. That goes down as like one of my favorite first sentences. Very gripping. Don't judge Dorothy Gilman's books by their covers. They were generally written in like the 70s and 80s, and the covers scream that, but they are really great. So definitely recommend that. Now I'm just gonna pick through and pick all of the ones that I have on my stack from a particular author because I decided to put 3 of his books on here because no one screams fall to me like Frank Peretti. The Oath is one of my absolute favorites of his. I read it in high school while burning this certain candle, and now every time I smell this specific apple cinnamon scent, I'm transported to being like a 16-year-old reading this book in my basement, completely terrified and loving it. And I reread it as an adult, and that book is still amazing. So I put 3 of his on here. They're all generally supernatural suspense, eerie, but not eerie without a cause. So we've got The Visitation. I do not remember if I've ever read this one. The sleepy eastern Washington wheat town of Antioch has suddenly become a gateway for the supernatural, from sightings of angels and messianic images to a weeping crucifix. That does sound like something I read, but probably like when it first came out in 1999, so it's been a little while. We're gonna skip the prologue. We're gonna go to chapter 1, read the first sentence. Sally Fordyce left the house as soon as the breakfast dishes were done, walking a little, jogging a little along Highway 9, a narrow, straight-as-string 2-lane with a fading white line and an evenly spaced parade of utility poles. I'm not going to judge this book by the first sentence. That was incredibly boring, but his books generally are not. Then we've got Prophet. Another one that I think that I read years ago but don't remember. You Will Know the Truth, and the Truth Will Set You Free, John 8:32. John Barrett, anchorman for News 6 at 5, the city's most watched newscast, has a problem. His comfortable, successful world is being jarred to the breaking point. He's caught his producer skewing a story to fit her own prejudices, then lying to cover her tracks, and she appears to be hiding something much bigger. His father's accidental death suddenly isn't looking so accidental. I don't remember this one. I read most of his books in high school and should just reread all of them. John Barrett heard God speak when he was 10 years old. Not great either. Maybe he's not a first sentence guy. Like, I know his books are gripping and kind of scary, and you're not getting it from the first sentences of them. And then we've got Monster. This one came out in 2005. And I definitely have vague recollections of it, but not enough that I like remember any of the storyline. I remember like a creature and a forest and a fence. So there's that. Some monsters are real. Miles away from the hectic city, Reed and Rebecca hike into the beautiful northwestern woods. They are surrounded by gorgeous mountains, waterfalls, and hundreds of acres of unspoiled wilderness. During their first night of camping, an unearthly wail pierces the calm of the forest. Then something emerges from the dense woods. Let's leave it there. The hunter, rifle in his hands, dug in a heel and came to a sudden halt on the game trail, motionless, nearly invisible in a thicket of serviceberry and crowded pines. Better. But still, I don't think that's his strong point. First sentence is not a strong point. Okay, let's do the 2 library books I have out. This one didn't make it onto my, I don't think it officially made it onto my September TBR, though I would like to still read it. Her Darkest Secret by Jessica R. Patch. I heard about this series from Stacy and it sounded interesting, so I got it from the library. The sight of a goose feather at a murder scene modeled after a children's poem is enough to make FBI agent Fiona Kelly's blood turn to ice. Almost 2 decades ago, a feather was left on her sister's body, and with every subsequent victim of the nursery rhyme killer. Now he's back. Only this time, his latest gruesome murder is a message to the only one who ever got away, Fiona. Oh, that sounds good. I did read the first sentence in my September TBR, and I know it didn't win out, but I can see how it could be. So it says, "Here, kitty, kitty," his voice echoed through the forest. I guess that's 2 sentences. But there was a comment that was like, imagine this said in a creepy voice in a forest. And it is like, you know, a murder mystery. So that is creepy. Definitely has the September, October vibes. We'd like to get to that. And then the other one I have out, I mentioned in my cozy mystery recommendations video, the short little part where I mentioned a couple I would like to get to. I've got The Secret Book and Scone Society by Ellery Adams out from the library. I actually don't know anything about it other than it's been making its rounds on BookTube. Everyone's enjoyed it. I heard chapter 6 a person should skip. That's all I know. Miracle Springs, North Carolina is a place of healing. Strangers flock here hoping the Strangers flock here, hoping the natural hot springs, 5-star cuisine, and renowned spa can cure their ills. Okay, I'm skipping over. That's Nora's special talent, prescribing the perfect novel to ease a person's deepest pain and lighten their heaviest burden. When a visiting businessman reaches out to Nora for guidance, she knows exactly which novels will help. But before he can keep their appointment at Miracle Books, he's found dead on the train tracks. Okay. Sentence 1. The man on the park bench stared at the empty space above the knuckle of Nora Pennington's pinky finger. That's a strange first sentence. Oh man, there's so many books here. Okay, I have 2 books in the same series. So I have Every Crooked Path by Stephen James. This is the prequel to the Bauer Files. These 2 books have been on so many TBRs. I've read book 1 in the series. I've never read more. So this is a mysterious suicide and series of abductions draws Patrick into a web of intrigue, following an international conspiracy where no one is who they appear to be and stakes have never been higher. I enjoyed book 1. Why I'm not reading more, I don't know. I clicked on my mini mag light as I slit the police tape crisscrossing the apartment's front door, swung it open, and stepped into the darkened living room. Yeah, so this is the prequel, and then I have book 2, The Rook. Book 1 was The Pawn as well that I would like to read. So this one is investigating a series of baffling fires in Santiago, and he's drawn into a deadly web of intrigue. Didn't this one also use intrigue? Into a web of intrigue. Whoa, where nothing is as appears to be, where no one is who as they appear to be. Did they just like copy the same thing? Okay, well, that's pretty much the same back. Skipping the prologue again. Chapter 1. I stared at the array of silverware surrounding my plate. Well, I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot to do with baking. Okay. Since I've mostly done mystery, we'll continue with mystery, and I'm gonna throw a bunch of fantasy and a little bit of science fiction in here. I have one lone remaining Terry Blackstock. Not true. I have another one of hers. This is the only one that I have that's in the suspense genre. This is the first book in the Cape Refuge series. When the kindest couple in Cape Refuge is found murdered at their church, their daughter will have to find the killer before her own husband is convicted. Whoa, that's high stakes. Terry Blackstock, along with Frank Peretti, pretty much all I read in high school. The air conditioner was broken at City Hall, and the smell of warm salt air drifted through the windows from the beach across the street. It sounds a little bit more cozy than I think it's going to be. I have The House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz. This is the first book in his Sherlock Holmes novel series. So we're in London, 1890, 221B Baker Street. A fine arts dealer named Edmund visits Sherlock and Watson to beg for their help. I don't know if it's coming through, but my 11-year-old is in the basement, like 2 levels down, yelling. And I feel like it's probably coming through. I don't think he's getting murdered. I think he just plays really loudly. So if you're hearing random yelling in the baseline of this video here, it's just him playing. Okay, anyway. He is being menaced by a strange man in a flat cap, a wanted criminal who seems to have followed him all the way from America. Okay. Yeah, so chapter 1. Oh, preface 1. Influenza is unpleasant, Sherlock Holmes remarked, but you are right in thinking that, with your wife's help, the child will recover soon. Not a great first sentence, but maybe it'll get better. Then I'm also reading the Mrs. Jeffries series, so this is our Victorian mystery series, and I believe the next one I'm on is Mrs. Jeffries Takes Stock. This book has 3. Mrs. Jeffries Takes Stock, Mrs. Jeffries on the Ball, and Mrs. Jeffries on the Trail. So, she is a maid or something. What is she? She keeps house for the inspector, and she helps him solve crimes and mysteries without him realizing it. She hints at things. So in Mrs. Jeffries Takes Stock, a businessman has been murdered, and it could be because he cheated his stockholders. So, sentence 1. Inspector Gerald Witherspoon clasped his handkerchief to his nose and sneezed. Okay, not a great first sentence either. Now we are on to science fiction and fantasy. Not very many here, because I've been doing a lot of science fiction and fantasy reading in the last while and been putting off all my mystery suspense stuff. So I feel like the next 2 months are going to be more heavy mystery and suspense, and then as we get closer to winter, the fantasy will, jump back up again. But I have a few here. So I have Married by Treachery. This is part of the Arranged Marriages of the Fae series. I really like how unexpected the cover is under the dust jacket. I bought this a while ago because it was severely on sale. Raquel never expected to marry a bear, To be fair, Prince Edom wasn't actually a bear, but it was impossible to see his face through his mess of wild hair. That's right, yeah, so I don't know anything about this. I don't even remember how I came across it. Okay, skip the prologue. Oh, well, Raquel had not expected all the hair. Kind of predictable based on the back. Very short little novel. Then we've got The Queen's Resistance. This is the second book in the duology, sequel to The Queen's Rising, which was very enjoyable. It's in a world where when people go to school, they learn a certain, I don't even know how to describe it. There's different 5-ish different areas, and they go to school for 7 years in that area. Like art, music, knowledge, wit, something. And mostly you take the same schooling for 7 years, but our main character went to each of them for 1 year and then tried to figure out which one she wanted to be in, and lots of secrets were unveiled in book 1. I find it a very hard book to explain. Can I read sentence 1 or is it a spoiler? I feel I'll skip a name and then I feel like it's not spoilery. The castle was brimming with laughter and dinner preparations when blank and I entered the hall, blue passion close on our backs, the night breeze tangled in our hair. So, yeah, I don't know. Book 1 surprised me. I had it on my shelf for a very long time, and I would like to complete the series. Then I've got The Alliance. This one sounded interesting to me because it's like a dystopian story set in the Old Order Mennonite community. So a small plane crashes in this Mennonite community, and this woman has no idea it's foreshadowing of things to come. Soon after the young pilot, Moses, regains consciousness, they realize his instruments were destroyed by the same power outage that killed the electricity at the community store. So this is like a power outage thing in an old, like, so it's a different setting for this, something that's been done before. Acknowledgements, chapter 1. Buffered by grassland, the collision is strangely quiet. Wow, this font size is massive. I don't think I've ever opened this book before. And then each chapter, this is chapter 1, and it's a little bit bright, takes up an entire page just for the chapter title. So there's that one, 3 more. Oh, my books are falling. Kingdom of the Infinity Realm. This is the first book in a series as well. It says, Preston always believed that multiple sclerosis sealed his fate. His destiny is forever changed when he's hit in the face with an, oh yes, how do I say this? Oxraganonian warhammer. Follow Preston as he falls through a dimensional rift in the medieval-like world of Oswella. It's got an interesting premise. Paragraph 1, inhaling the rich, nutty aroma of freshly brewed coffee, Preston settles into the worn yellow suede armchair and stretches his lanky arms. So I'm assuming this will be a portal fantasy, which I found to be a lot of fun. Then I've got The Wall by Brian Penn. This is a dystopian story. He could live forever, but is he willing to pay the price? It's 2099, and the former USA is in the midst of another civil war. In the wake of a revolutionary technology that grants people a second chance at life, an impenetrable wall divides the prosperous nation of Zion from the slums of Middleland. Stuck inside the wall and desperate to reunite with his fiancée, contraband smuggler Asher is hell-bent on finding a way out. And I do remember, like, there's a cool map in here which kind of explains. So it's got the USA, and then it's got the different reservations kind of inside there, and then the areas around it. There's Zion West, Zion East, and then a wall. And the first sentence is, the wall went up virtually overnight. So, sounds like a fun one for fall. And the last one, honestly, I don't even want to read it, but it's like the second book in a duology, so it would be nice just to check that off. If it doesn't grip me, I might just DNF it. Steel Striker. So this comes after Sky Hunter. Problem is, the cover's beautiful, the words on there is kind of cool. Without the dust jacket, it's beautiful. Like, I judge books by their covers, and if they have pretty covers, they're harder to get rid of. We've got a map. I don't really remember much from book 1. As a striker, Talon was taught that loyalty is life. Loyalty to the shield who watches your back, to the strikers who risk their lives on the battlefield, and most of all to Mara, which was once the last nation free from the Karensa Federation tyranny. Yeah, I don't remember much. Oh, my battery's gonna die before I read the first sentence. We gotta change it. Of course, like, battery dies like right on the last book. Sentence 1. Your first oh wait, is that chapter? Okay, no, this is like the prologue. It's called Red. Chapter 1 is called Talon. The place where my mother's house once stood is now a field of scorched dirt. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember much about book 1. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough to keep book 2. Is it worth reading? If you guys have read the duology, let me know. I want it off my shelf. There's going to be a book unhaul coming really soon because I'm feeling overwhelmed by the books that I own. But I don't want to get rid of like all of them, but I want to get rid of a lot of them and read books I'm interested in, which sometimes means getting books from the library or reading the arcs that are cluttering up my devices, prioritizing those. So let me know if this one's worth spending any time on. Yeah, so what are you guys hoping to read this autumn? What kind of vibes are you going for? I'm definitely going for a little bit more mystery suspense for the next 2 months, but definitely still some fantasy and science fiction thrown in there. I will continue to read nonfiction, but it doesn't feel like seasonal. Yeah, so let me know what you guys are planning on reading.